You lie in the dark and feel nothing where energy used to be. The day has emptied you, not through any single blow but through 100 small disappointments, each one quiet, each one leaving you a little less able to meet the next. You checked your phone one last time before bed and saw another message you do not have the strength to answer. You closed your eyes and felt the weight settle, not in your shoulders but deeper, as if your attention itself has been drained. This is not the exhaustion that comes from honest work. This is the kind that comes from giving more than you knew you had, from caring when no one seemed to notice, from holding yourself together when everything inside wanted to collapse. Tonight you are here because you feel emotionally drained, and the Stoics, who knew fatigue of a different kind, offer a way to meet this moment without pretending it is smaller than it feels. Seneca wrote often about the weariness that comes not from labor but from living among confusion and noise. He understood that a person can spend a day doing very little and still arrive at evening feeling as though they have carried stones. The reason, he suggested, lies in the quality of attention we give away. When you scatter your focus across 20 worries, when you absorb the moods of others without boundary, when you replay conversations that cannot be changed, you spend energy without building anything. The drain is real. The Stoics do not ask you to deny it. They ask you to see it clearly so that you can decide what happens next. Marcus would remind us that the mind is not an endless reservoir. It requires care, just as the body does. When you feel this kind of tiredness, it is often because you have been attending to things outside your control while neglecting the one thing that remains yours, the choice of where to place your next thought. You cannot control whether people understand you. You cannot control whether your effort is acknowledged. You cannot control the speed at which problems resolve. But you can control whether you continue to give your attention to what drains without returning anything. This is not about shutting down. It is about recognizing that attention is finite, and tonight you need to spend it more carefully. Epictetus taught his students to ask a simple question when they felt overwhelmed: what here is mine to do? Not what you wish were different. Not what someone else should have done. Not what might happen tomorrow. What is yours, right now, in this moment? When you are emotionally drained, the answer is almost always smaller than you think. It might be as simple as letting yourself rest without guilt. It might be deciding not to answer that message until morning. It might be closing the door on a worry that does not need solving tonight. The Stoic practice is not to do more. It is to do what is honest and within reach, and to let the rest wait. You may feel invisible tonight, as though the world moved on without noticing what you gave. This feeling is not unusual. Many people who care deeply experience it. The Stoics would say that the feeling, while real, is not the whole truth. Your worth does not depend on being seen. Your dignity does not require applause. Seneca's lesson points toward a steadier ground. You are valuable not because others acknowledge you, but because you continue to act according to what you know is right, even when no one is watching. That persistence, that quiet decision to keep your integrity intact, is what the Stoics called virtue. It does not announce itself. It does not demand recognition. It simply holds. When you are this tired, you may believe you have nothing left to offer. But the Stoics understood that rest itself is a form of contribution. To stop, to refuse to push past your limits, to say, I will tend to this tomorrow, these are not failures. They are acts of self-respect. Marcus wrote that the soul becomes dyed by the quality of its thoughts. If you fill your night with shame for being tired, with guilt for needing rest, with fear that you are falling behind, you deepen the drain. If instead you allow yourself to be tired without judgment, to feel what you feel without adding a story about what it means, you give yourself room to recover. This is discipline, not indulgence. There is a difference between giving up and giving yourself space. Giving up is abandoning what matters to you because it feels too hard. Giving yourself space is recognizing that you cannot do everything at once, and that choosing rest tonight allows you to return tomorrow with more clarity. The Stoics were not interested in endless striving. They were interested in sustainable action, in living in a way that could be maintained without breaking. Epictetus would say that you are not required to exhaust yourself to prove your worth. You are required only to act with honesty, to treat yourself as you would treat someone in your care, and to trust that rest is part of the work, not separate from it. You may be replaying a moment from today, something you said or did not say, something you wish had gone differently. This is where emotional drain often hides. Not in the moment itself, but in the endless return to it, the mental rehearsal that changes nothing but uses everything. The Stoics practiced a discipline they called the art of letting go. Not forgetting, not pretending it does not matter, but choosing not to carry what cannot be changed. Marcus would remind us that the past is outside your control. It has already happened. The only thing you can control is whether you allow it to occupy your mind tonight, taking space that could be used for rest. You can acknowledge the mistake, learn what it offers, and then set it down. This is not avoidance. It is wisdom. Seneca spoke often about the tyranny of other people's opinions. When you are drained, part of the weight may come from wondering what others think, whether you disappointed someone, whether you measured up. The Stoic response is not to stop caring, but to care about the right things. You cannot control what others think of you. You cannot control whether they are fair or kind or understanding. You can control whether you acted with integrity, whether you tried, whether you treated others with respect. If you did those things, then you have done what was yours to do. The rest belongs to them, not to you. This is not coldness. It is clarity. It is the refusal to let your peace depend on judgments you cannot control. You might fear that if you rest tonight, you will fall further behind, that the world will move on without you, that tomorrow will be even harder. This fear is understandable, but it is not true. Rest does not create the problems you fear. It prepares you to meet them. Epictetus taught that every moment offers a choice. You can act from fear, or you can act from reason. Fear says you must keep going, that stopping is dangerous, that you are only as valuable as your last effort. Reason says you are a human being with limits, that your mind and body need care, that tomorrow's work will be better if you allow yourself to recover tonight. The Stoics chose reason, not because it was easier, but because it was true. There is a phrase the Stoics used, though it appears in different forms across their writings, the discipline of assent. It means you do not have to accept every thought that arrives. When the voice in your head says you are not enough, you can notice it and decide not to agree. When the feeling of invisibility rises, you can acknowledge it without letting it define you. When the drain feels permanent, you can remember that feelings change, that tonight is not forever, and that rest is the beginning of renewal. This is not positive thinking. It is the practice of not giving authority to every passing emotion. You are tired. That is a fact. But you are not broken. That is also a fact. The Stoics believed that the universe has an order, even when we cannot see it. They did not mean that everything happens for a reason in some comforting sense. They meant that you are part of something larger, that your life has a place, and that your worth is not diminished by a hard day. Seneca's lesson points toward this. You are allowed to be tired. You are allowed to feel what you feel. And you are still, beneath all of it, whole. The drain you feel tonight is not a sign that you have failed. It is a sign that you have been present, that you have tried, that you have cared. Those are not weaknesses. They are the qualities that make a life worth living. So tonight, let yourself rest. Not as an escape, but as an act of care. Let the worries that do not need solving wait until morning. Let the judgments of others remain outside your door. Let the mistakes of today teach you what they will, and then let them go. You do not need to be more than you are right now. You do not need to have answers you do not have. You need only to close your eyes, to trust that rest is not surrender, and to know that tomorrow you will meet what comes with the same quiet integrity that brought you here. The Stoics would tell you that this, too, is discipline. This, too, is strength. And tonight, it is enough.